Yeah.
And
But they got hammered at London.
oh yeah,
Ooh.
they really got hammered. Oh boy, nice building. So
Sorry. Just realized what I said. This question always surfaces when we have games with Ladehemmung, which is like when you got a revolver and it's jarred and you can't shoot. That's the meaning of the German word Ladehemmung.
but as the game went, there could have been easily 5 goals.
I
Okay.
know, but they weren't.
Yeah. Okay.
And welcome to RBLE Global Tracks, Leipzig's fresh RB Leipzig podcast in English, brought to you by Richard and Mario. Amongst us, we are season ticket holders, passionate supporters, and not very neutral local pundits. Both of us have been following Leipzig football since our childhood days. So if you want to hear about RB Leipzig, capture the mood of the fans in the city, and if you want to go beyond numbers and statistics, you are in the right place. We're delighted to welcome you on board. Let's go. Auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs. Good evening, Richard. How are you?
Good evening, Mario. Thank you. I'm fine. Very well rested due to some days off from work. So, like last Thursday was my last day in the office. So, and the next one will be next Monday, April 8th. And I'm enjoying daylight saving time. I love it when the sun shines until late in the afternoon, the early evening. So yeah, I'm in a good mood and I'm really looking forward to our next 25 minutes,
Oh, 25 minutes. Guys, that's the mark. Let's not overstep that.
maybe 30.
You never know. Yeah, that's great to hear, Richard. We're currently traveling here at the Baltic Sea, somewhere in the north of Germany. The weather has been not so nice, rather cold and rainy, but a little bit better today. But we have salty water, so that's brilliant. So let's get going. What are we going to talk about today, Richard?
Well, of course, we are looking back to our nil-all draw versus Mainz 05 on last Saturday. And yeah, we're looking forward to our clash at SC Freiburg last match with Christian Streich in charge as a manager.
Yeah, looking forward to that. But last but not least, we're also going to be looking at what it means if our club has some sort of Ladehemmung and are we relying too much on goaltenders goals? So we had a little look at that. So let's get going. Richard, I know you attended the Mainz match. We were already traveling. I did watch it on TV and I was the impatient guy. But let's take us through. How did you see that game unfolding and how was the atmosphere?
It was quite good. It was quite good in the stands. Yeah, the atmosphere, the crowd was quite patient for, especially in the first half when we played a lot of passes, not towards the goal, just from the side to the other side, and we were lacking some force against the opponent's goal. But there was no whistling from the stands. Now I think it was quite good, and I appreciate that. And to me, in the second half, with some of questionable ref decisions,
Extremely questionable. I agree.
extremely questionable, and maybe enlighten some crucial points a little later on. Um, I had that feeling that there was some cohesion between our lads and the crowd in the stands. That there was some like, okay, now we 12, like the 11 players and the whole crowd against Mainz and against the refs. And as
Against
longer,
the universe.
yeah. We all against the whole league, and so there was no whistling because of some impatience and yeah, missed chances, and that was quite good. And even after the game, as always, and unfortunately, the stands was emptying pretty
quickly.
quickly. Thank you. But yeah, on the other hand side, no one was booing or whistling or something against the lads, because if you ask me, they did it quite well. It was a really, really, really good performance, in my opinion. Okay, yeah, we didn't score, and that's what it's all about. If we want to win a game, all right, yeah, €3 in the Phrasenschwein. Um, but yeah, I think we saw everything in that game. We saw, well, my notes, I wrote it down. Yeah, we saw faces with patience by controlling the ball. We saw long passes along the sidelines. Though I think Raum was overseen a bit too much in the first half. We saw crosses, we saw take-ons, dribbles, quick combinations down the middle, shots from close range, shots from outside the box. That team threw everything they had against Sentner, but was just unlucky, and on top of that, overlooked by the VAR from time to time.
And I think it's fair to say that Sentner, I don't know, he was on a brilliant form and he did a brilliant job. The interesting part is, as I was watching the match on TV and I wasn't in the stadium, I think I watched it from a different perspective and I got different set of feelings. Because when you sent the message saying, okay, it was a really strong performance, and you seemed to be okay with that, and you said we were just a little bit unlucky, and we needed a referee who actually was some sort of expert in the field of football. I agreed with the latter part, but not with the first part. I was extremely frustrated, and this is really interesting because I perceived the match completely different from, I guess, when I'd been there, because this might have been a similar type of match that we had versus Eintracht Frankfurt, which we lost 1-0, where we conceded the goal really early on, but we had all the time in the world to equalize and turn things around. Of course, it didn't happen. But similar to what you just told me, I think the team threw everything at Eintracht Frankfurt, and Trapp was just in a brilliant form. And at that time, I felt more like you did. You know, it was a strong performance, just a bit unlucky. But I thought it was really interesting when I watched it on Saturday. I was so impatient. Yes, I did notice some boos as well, but I interpreted it as those boos towards the referee, and they were kind of justified, I thought. So this is really interesting, but I think it is because of things that happen afterwards. You know, Bayern not beating Dortmund, unbelievable, and hats off to Dortmund at this point. And always when we have games like this, the question about Ladehemmung services and why are we not scoring? And I must admit, at the beginning of the week, I was listening to a fellow podcast, the Bundesliga show, and that is released every week by Over the Bar. And one of the gentlemen named Rory, he was on our podcast as well a couple of weeks ago when we had that match versus VfB Stuttgart. We're not talking about that anymore. And their main takeaway from the Leipzig match was RB Leipzig is too much reliant on the goaltenders' goals, and their midfield has sort of lost a bit of quality and is not as effective. And I thought, hold on, let's have a look at that and look at that a little bit closer. So now we're going to be delving a little bit more into stats. So I looked at the just at the goals scored of last year versus the goals scored of this year, and just try to compare, okay, which section of the team scored those goals, i.e., midfield and attack, and which strikers or which players actually stood out. And at first glance, the thesis that was brought up by our fellow podcaster is not really supported by those numbers. Because if you look at the percentage and number of goals that were scored last year's from players in our midfield department, it was about 34%. This year, we're after 27 games, we're at 32%. So pretty much the same. So the numbers don't really support that. I think the midfield seems to be as effective this year than like last year. And two players who stood out last year were, of course, Schoboschlei and Forsberg with 6 goals each. And this year it's Xavi, 7 goals, albeit most of them were scored at the beginning of the season. And Baumgartner, he's on 4 goals so far. So that to me, that seems that midfield is as effective and as good as they were last year. Now, looking at our strikers in the section there, we had last year about 50% of the goals came from our strikers. So that is to be expected. This year it's a little bit higher. At the moment, it's about 58% of our goals come from our strikers unit. Two people stood out last year. That was Nkunku, 16 goals, Werner, 9 goals. So altogether about equating for 34%. This year it's Openda and Sheshko. Yeah, of course. Or goal Penda with 19 goals so far, and hopefully counting, and Sheshko with 7. So we're looking at slightly higher percentage at 44. So I don't really see a big move and reliance on our strikers if you just look at the goals scored. But it still feels like we are relying on those goals, because every time Goalpanda doesn't score, we kind of look at each other and go, what has happened? And then even Sheshko doesn't score. It's like, okay, nothing's really happening here. So I'm afraid we have to look at it from a different angle. So I looked at the personnel that was used last year in terms of strikers, and we had 4 strikers which were used on a regular basis, and those were, of course, Kunku, Silva, Werner, Paulsen, and have I missed out one more guy? I think I have, but anyways, there were 4 plus 2 with Novo. 7 times he appeared and Sirlot only once. But again, those were 4 players, 4 strikers we had. Now this year we also had 4 strikers in the beginning, and with Werner, Paulsen, Openda, and Sheshko, and all know what happened during the winter. Mr. Werner, Timo Werner, he left Leipzig for North London. And so we only had 3, and that felt a little bit tighter. So we then were operating with 3 strikers. Now we're only operating with 2, since Paulsen is on the injury list as well. So I think that is the difference. That puts a lot more pressure on the 2 remaining strikers and the strikers unit. And then it's fair to say, yes, we are relying on Openda's goals, but also on Sheshko's goals on the striker unit. And so it is kind of right, but not because of the number of goals that we're looking at, but at the sheer low number of personnel that we have in the striker section. And it is getting worse if you think about that. RB Leipzig has put out a statement that Paulsen was examined, but they haven't given us a date when he's supposed to be coming back. And I listened to one of Germany's most popular podcasts in the football section called Stammplatz. It's by the Bild.de. And then the Tuesday section, they did mention that RB Leipzig is aware that he could be out for the season, but that hasn't been confirmed. But I think there might be a possibility that this may happen. So that leaves us with 2 strikers at the end of the day. And my conclusion is, well, we also need a backup for those 2, because not to make things worse, but do you remember that Goalpanda is on 4 yellows? And I've been waiting for his 5th yellow. Hopefully, never comes. And he never picks up a red card. Hopefully none of them gets injured of our 2 top strikers. The good news that they're still there, but they need a backup. And interesting part is something you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and something I think they tried as well, is to use Baumgartner as a backup. And when he played for Hoffenheim, especially last year, he did play in that position, I think, quite a few times, and did score in that position as well. So that could be a good alternative. However, Pausen needs to come back as quick as possible. To be honest, he does need to come back as quick as possible. But another conclusion from this all is, hey, we do need even more support from our midfield players. And I would love to see Xavi getting back with all his brilliance and the show that he does. He needs to get back into goal scoring form as well, like we've seen at the beginning of the year. And I just had the scene in front of my eyes, the goal he scored versus Union Berlin in one of the early matches. He needs to even step up to that plate. And just bear in mind, Danny Olmo has missed 11 matches already this year. Last year missed 10 plus 1 as well. So he's on the same track record there. He needs to score. I mean, he is a brilliant player, and he shows that. And like you told me, he did show that the Saturday as well. But he needs to score. I'm sorry. We need more goals from him as well. And what was also interesting. I picked up on a message that somebody replied or left a comment, and I think it's user Leipzig Brasileiro at Leipzig, Brazil. And he wonders if in midfield we could have a new combination in the defensive midfield section. You know, instead of Schlager Haidara or Schlager Campbell, and then it's fair to say Campbell, that didn't work so well last Saturday. He was wondering if Elmas, if Elmas and Schlager would make a good pair. I personally struggle to see that. What are your thoughts, Richard?
Yeah, well, me too. So Almas, in my opinion, has clearly got his qualities with the ball to his feet in the offensive unit in the midfield section and not alongside Schlager or alongside Haidara. So this is not an option for me. It's not thinkable that this might be okay, might be even adorable to see Elmas in defensive midfield. I would like to add something to the Paulsen injury. I read that. I don't know where I read that, but if everything went or will develop as best ways possible, he might be back against Dortmund.
Okay, that would actually be some silver lining at the end of the
Yeah.
tunnel. So that would be amazing. But we need it. We
Yeah,
need it.
but we need him. So now talking about backups, you mentioned 4 yellow cards from Gold Panda, then
Hmm.
and the other nominated striker is Shesko and maybe Baumgartner. Yeah, Baumgartner started in the first row next to Gold Panda, and I think he did it not that bad, although it could have been better. He had better games, to be fair, but he had a nice opportunity early in the second half where he missed a crosser. I don't know, I think from Raum. It came from the left side anyway,
Hmm.
and he missed it by a length of his toe. Um, yeah, and then if he would be like I don't know 2-3 centimeters taller, he would have touched the ball and it would have clearly go into the back of the net because Sentner was already beaten at that point. So we
I think he needs bigger feet, just like Sheshko.
or bigger shoes.
Bigger shoes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you should go into the clown in the clown store with his long boots.
Fashing is over.
So yeah, there's on sale now everything. But talking about backups, we have this young little guy, 19-year-old, Yannick Eduardo, who wasn't
True.
on the roster on Saturday, but we saw him from time to time on the roster, and I'm pretty sure that he will join the club, join the team on the road game versus Freiburg. Though I don't expect him to play, but should Gold Panda receive his fifth yellow, or should another, maybe even minor injury occur on our striking unit, then yeah, it's time for Yannick to shine, Yannick Eduardo, and maybe this is some guy who will show the league, show the world that he is ready for striking in the Bundesliga. Well,
Would be
we'll see.
would be impeccable timing, to be honest. Would be
Mm.
awesome. Do you know what else would be the icing on the cake?
No, please tell me.
Our captain Willi Orban to add to his scoreboard this year. He hasn't done so. He missed quite a few matches. Last year, finished up with 4 goals, and I always look forward to him sneaking into the box, especially during corner kicks. And the one scene that springs to my mind is not that goal he scored versus the Bumblebees in the DFB Pokal quarterfinal. No, I think it was a league game. It was under the Tesco. And I don't know if it was the first or second goal. He just snuck into the box, little header, boom, and scored. That's what we need as well. So that would be the icing on the cake.
Yeah, we saw this already versus Real Madrid.
Oh, we did.
We
Okay.
did, yeah. So we didn't saw it in the league recently. You're right, and there will be no better point, no better opportunity than next Saturday at
I mean,
SC Freiburg.
if you can do it at Bernabeu,
You can do it
you can do
anywhere.
it at the Schwarzwaldmilch, whatever that stadium is called. It's a beautiful stadium, though. No disrespect.
By the way,
The Jobrad Arena.
I saw this stadium from the Schauinsland. Do you know this mountain?
I know Schauinsland as a tour operator.
Yeah, Yeah, of course, this is somewhere else. But there's a mountain where you where there's
I'm so ignorant.
where you can travel or even hiking on the top. And from that, and we had this a few years ago. We had a really sunny day with almost no clouds, and you can watch like hundreds of kilometers. And from the very top of that mountain to Freiburg isn't that far. It's like I don't know 30-40 kilometers, and you have a clear view right onto the pitch from the Schauinsland into the SC Freiburg arena. That was nice.
I can imagine. That is beautiful. Wow. So perfect timing for Saturday. But before we talk about that match on Saturday, do you know what else is actually very good news? Everything is still in our hands. If we just win the next
Oh
7
yeah.
games, we will finish up in the top 4
So
because Dortmund is coming to play to Leipzig.
we're still in the driving seat, yeah? All
In
right.
the driving seat, totally. Okay.
But I would like to add to this whole discussion. Are we relying too much on our goals and not enough players scoring goals? Would have been the narrative as it is now if we were able to convert on our countless chances on Saturday. I don't think so.
You're
So
right. And that's why I said in the beginning, this question always surfaces when we have games with Ladehemmung, which is like when you got a revolver and it's jarred and you can't shoot. That's the meaning of the German word Ladehemmung.
So to me, it's like, and you mentioned it already, versus Frankfurt. We should have won that game or at least draw. And yeah, versus Mainz, it was exactly the same, and it wasn't quite different to our performances to our very first nil-all draw we saw against Bochum. And when we in the first half of the season, when we had the scoreless home game versus Bochum, there was that game where we missed 2 penalties and had in total 2.5 x goals or something like that. And now you have to keep in mind that 1 penalty is already 0.8 x goals, so you have to discount those 1.6 x goals from the 2.5, so that leaves zero point 0.9 and something like that. Chances created, x goals created out of the game, and it's like nothing. And versus Frankfurt, we had 3.5, if I remember correctly, and now 2.8 something. So, as I said, we saw shots from every angle. We had extremely great chances. And on top of that, I would like to mention it, and I teased it in a few minutes ago. There was this foul
Hmm.
midway through the second half, was against Xavi, and Frank Willenborg, the ref, he saw it. He saw it, and he showed with his arms, with his hands, okay, come on, play on. There was nothing. And that was a clearly a wrong decision, no doubt about it. And I watched it multiple times at home into on the television. And come on, you cannot oversee this contact from the upper leg to Xavi's standing leg. And if it is a penalty or not, it's maybe questionable because it's very, very close to the line of the penalty box. But it's a clear foul and would have been an extremely good opportunity, a free kick from like 16 meters or even a penalty. And yeah,
To me, it was a clear penalty. I was really surprised that the VAR didn't kick in. That was surprising because there was a similar scene later on with Mainz that could have been and should have been a penalty as well. But that was reviewed by the VAR and that was reviewed by the referee and not given. So I'm still at odds why the Xavi situation wasn't reviewed at all. And it would have been a penalty because it was on the line. The foul was committed on the line, so and the line belongs to the box, 16-yard box, so hence it would be a penalty. But hätte Fahrradkette, we can't change it, can we?
no.
One more remark I would like to make, and we can argue about this for a little bit. And I know we're probably at opposite ends, and I might have seen it differently. There were a couple of situations in the match where I was jumping up because I was so frustrated because I felt the team was trying to be putting on a show and to be magicians instead of just playing it simple, just kicking it and scoring a goal. And my plea is, guys, kick it first, then put on a show. We need goals first. There is no B note that's going to carry us through to the top four. We need goals. But I know we discussed it briefly before our episode. You got a different opinion on that.
I disagree with that point. I disagree.
I can't believe it.
Obviously, you said, hey, score first and then play something for the highlight reel. Okay, that's fair enough. But especially Olmo was criticized for trying to play with the heel too much. But this guy can do anything with the ball at the ball, and he is very quick in thinking and recognizing situations. And I'm sure that they are practicing this in training, and out of 20 times, this will lead to success like 14, 15 times. And those guys, as I said, can do anything with the ball. It's not like me, even if I would recognize the situation and might think, hey, that will be cool playing with the heel to my teammate, then I would break my legs or something like that. But Olmo not. And this is like, sometimes there are games like that where you just don't put the ball into the back of the net. And even if you're doing things that you're doing in training all over again without any problems, won't lead to success this time. And I think it's not fair to criticize him or the team for playing too much for the show, for the highlight reel, instead of concentrating scoring goals.
I guess it's just very frustrating during games like this when it seems like, okay, hit the first goal and then you can put on a show. But I'll give you that as well. I just remembered the scene during the Super Cup where he just did magical moves, which led to one of the goals. I don't remember which one it was. Yes, the narrative would be different after games like that we won 3-0. But hey, we didn't score. We didn't score versus Mainz. And I like to remind you of one of our episodes called Mind the Gap. We should have beaten Mainz. You opted for a 5-0. It didn't happen. Strangely enough, Bayern Munich couldn't beat Dortmund. I think it's the whole circumstances where it just is easy to get frustrated and not to see what you see at that moment.
But as the game went, there could have been easily 5 goals. Okay.
I know, but there weren't.
Yeah. Okay. So enough of that. Let's move
But
on.
at the end of the day, let's conclude. Yes, there's a lot more pressure now on our striking personnel and on Penta and on Cesco. We need more support from the midfield, but it's mainly down to the fact that our striking unit is a lot smaller now than it was a year ago. But we keep our fingers crossed. Everything's still to play for. It's still in our hands. If we start winning on Saturday, so where are we going to go to?
Introducing our next opponent, der Gegner check.
We're gonna go traveling to Freiburg, and every time I think Freiburg and you too, we talked about it before the show, and we both thinking, oh my God, no, Freiburg, oh, that's gonna tough. That's gonna be a hard nut to crack. But actually, but actually, this is not true. So yeah, at least in terms of results recently. We had 19 games so far against Freiburg in the league and in the DFB Pokal included, and we lost only 4. And we lost those 4 in our 5 first away games. So the last loss we conceded against Freiburg was at Freiburg in October 2019. That was pre-COVID area. So
wow, I mean, I didn't expect that. I don't even remember that. It feels like it was much closer.
Yeah, it feels like it was much closer, but it isn't. There was some draws. Okay, to be fair, but every time we won by at least 2 goals. So usually scoring 3 goals against Freiburg. This is not rare, and Freiburg, conceding quite a lot of goals. They are now at 48 goals conceded, and versus the top 4, they conceded 25, and so. They played against Stuttgart, Dortmund, Bayern, and Leverkusen twice already. And versus those top 4, they are on a 0-1-7 record. So they had no wins, 1 draw, and 7 losses. And the only draw was the 2-2 draw versus Munich. I think it was in January or February or something.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind that they are ranked 8th place now. And they lost their first leg against us, and we are in 5th place. So they are now 0-1-8 versus the top 5. Remember, we talked about the polarized league?
Yeah, mind the gap.
mind the gap. So the top 5 is clearly a different tier compared to the rest of the league. Although we talked about this too. Within these top 4, there are some tiers you can you can make difference between or in between those teams. So now, as I said, Christian Streich, very last game as a Freiburg coach
Against us.
against us, yes, and unforgettable. I would like to mention what our team is capable of when facing Freiburg and facing very very important games versus Freiburg is the back-to-back wins last season. And there was this first incredible 5-1 show of strength in the DFB Pokal semifinal, and a few days later, the even more important UCL participation on the line match.
Thank you, Kefka.
And we won this one too, 1-0.
Yeah.
True. With extreme.
Why do we keep forgetting that? And the first reaction is like, "Ooh, Freiburg! Ooh.
That's gonna be and it will be difficult. No, don't mistake me here. This won't be a walk in the park. This is clearly a much harder task than we had the last 4 games, because the last 4 games we played versus the bottom 4, and now we are playing against a team that is ranked in the upper half of the Bundesliga. Beat West Ham at Hammers at home 1-0 recently.
Yeah,
and
but they got hammered at London.
Oh yeah, they really got hammered. Oh boy. Nice wording. So.
Sorry, I just realized what I said.
You can cut this out if you want. And
that's good. This is podcast gold, potentially.
Okay, so although 3 of their top lads are missing, so number 3 Lienhardt, number 22 Salai, and number 28 Ginter won't be available due to
Ginter,
injuries. Yeah, but still, none of those mentioned bottom 4 got quality on their roster, comparable, for example, to number 27 Höfler, number 8 Eggestein, or number 38 Gregoritsch, even number 42 Down. And most recently, who caught my eyes, number 14, Yannick Keitel, who will leave the club and join VfB Stuttgart next season. Greetings out to Rory. And all of those are above Bundesliga average, in my opinion. And in addition to that, they got a really, really talented striker, number 34, Merlin Röhl, I think. Most of us remember him, because he scored a goal against us in the first leg, where he dribbled from Freiburg's half on the pitch, outplayed 3 of our lads, and tipped the ball into the back of the net just before halftime. Beautiful effort. Heads off for that. And that's my player to watch, by the way. So they got a really, really, really good and talented squad, and they showed what they are capable in their last away match in Gladbach, when they got away with the 3-0 road win. So what makes me
bad?
Not so bad. So what makes me comfortable that we are gonna win here? So first of all, I mentioned that they're struggling versus the top 4. So when they have to face really, really good squads, really good rosters, then they're struggling, and they're usually conceding goals. Like 50% of all their goals conceded came out of 8 games they played. Quite remarkable, in my opinion. And we are still in a very good form, though we didn't score now, but we scored a lot of goals in those games before. And we got really, really, one of our strengths is the velocity, is the speed of our attackers, and even more within the counter-attack game. And that's where Freiburg is struggling with. They conceded now 10 or 11 goals from counter-attacks now. And Freiburg is a team that always wants to compete, always wants to win, is handling the ball well, and even more within their own stadium. They are trying to show their fans, their supporters, that they are have an idea how to handle the ball and how to score goals on their own. So that's what makes me optimistic, that there will be rooms, there will be a lot of open space on the pitch that we can be filled with our lads, and will be have lot of opportunities for counter attacks. And as I said, SC Freiburg is prone to concede goals against from these. So this is what we have to use. And we have to avoid something. Avoid set pieces. Freiburg scores a lot of goals from those. So avoiding corner kicks and avoiding free kicks around the penalty box and dangerous areas will be crucial to come away with the win. And if our team is ready to do that, and I think, and I'm pretty sure that Marco Rose will have the correct plan here, I'm confident that we will get away with a 2-1 win on Saturday afternoon.
This sounds very optimistic. Sounds actually very feasible as well. I'm really hoping for that as well. And it seems to me that you're saying they're not going to park the bus because
No,
there
of
were
course not.
comments as well after the Mainz game. We don't have any idea when we play versus teams who park the bus. That wasn't really what I thought this time.
We had ideas. We had ideas versus the Prague bus. Yeah.
But so it should be a very attractive game to watch, shouldn't it? This should be a really good one.
Yeah, this is definitely gonna be a fun game to watch.
Okay,
Definitely.
hopefully they forget the change this time and don't try to throw us money like last year in the semifinals in the DFB Pokal. We're really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a draw, 1-1, although we desperately need the 3 points. And you tell me no. So hopefully, if you're right, I'm happy with that. Thank you, Richard. And who's going to ensure that we actually get those 3 points?
Liebe Fußballfans, wir kommen jetzt zu unserer heutigen Mannschaftsaufstellung.
Of course, Gulashi, keeper number 1. Then our 4 defenders, Henrichs, Orban, Lukepa, and Raum Lukepa, with a remarkable good effort on Saturday, by the way.
I agree.
So Haidara will be back on the pitch next to Schlager. And then Xavi next to Olmo in the offensive midfield and goal Panda, of course. I like Baumgartner from the beginning, but what I will do more like is Šeško. Šeško from the beginning.
And then maybe change it up if it's needed later on. Maybe.
Yep, maybe. Or maybe even Elmas.
I was wondering, where is Elmas in all of this?
Yeah, but I would like to see is working with only one striker.
Oh, okay.
So that, yeah, we talked about this, I think, some episodes ago.
Mhm.
I have this idea that it might be okay for sending out 3 offensive midfielders,
Mhm.
Olmo, Xavi, and Elmas, and only one striker. And then, because all of those 3 offensive midfielders are so talented, so good with the ball, and it might be a little bit harder for the opponents to adjust to who will come and join the lonely striker or Panda when it comes to the attacking game.
Can Penda be the lonely cowboy?
I think yes. He scored 19 times and could have scored more. So yes, he is a finisher.
I'll leave it at that. I'll rest my case. Very good. Is there anything you'd like to add? Because it looks like you have another idea. I think this idea is really compelling. Let's see if this really comes up one of these days. But is there anything else you like to say?
No, thank you. No, I think I said everything.
Well, Richard, really interesting comments, and I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully, we can see that. Makes me a lot more optimistic. That concludes our edition for this week. This has been RBLE Global Tracks coming to you from the heart of Leipzig. Well, at least Richard is there. And if you like our podcast, you can always subscribe to it on your favorite platform. We would love it if you left a comment on your platform as well. You can talk to us via email. The email is talktous@rbleglobaltracks.com. We're also on X Twitter. Our username is @podcast_RBL. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Have a good, end of the week, second half of the week. And we're looking forward to 3 points this weekend. Keep our fingers crossed. And all we need to say now is, auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs.